Good morning on this Sunday, September 15th. Not only is it the day that Tulsa King Season 2 comes out, which honestly, I really love that show, big Sylvester Stallone guy, but it's week 2 in the NFL. And even though it's really early, I managed to get him out of bed. My guy, Ryan Horvat from BetMGM. Thank you so much for joining me this morning, Ryan.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me, man. Usually I am up on Sunday mornings just staring at the screen until kickoff of these games. I don't do a whole lot of live betting these days. I want to actually just be able to enjoy the red zone and all the games. Got multiple screens going. So not a whole lot of live betting, but usually, man, I'm up, ready to go. Now, last night, I stayed up way too late. The main event of UFC didn't go off here on the East Coast until like 105, 110, and I'm kind of pissed at myself for staying up because I knew O'Malley was going down last night. I knew he was just going to get dragged to the ground, wore out, but I still talked myself into betting O'Malley by knockout last minute. That's something I usually don't do. You know, like you don't bet with your heart. You bet with your knowledge, man, with your mind. And I unfortunately went with the guy I wanted to win last night. So I was up way too late. So I apologize if I'm all nasally and sniffly, but I'm ready to roll. And I'm feeling good about the slate, man. I'm feeling good about the contest, the Survivor contest. I'm in both this year as well. So hopefully we have a day today. Make some money.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm glad that you're in both. So I didn't even realize that you were in both until I talked to you like 2 minutes ago. So it's nice actually to have somebody bounce it off. And typically people are always like, why do you do this Sunday morning first thing? A couple reasons. The main one being I'd rather not do it Saturday night at like 10 p.m. when everybody's out getting hammered. Usually a lot of the degenerates like us are up at this hour, like trying to get the last licks of a decent number, maybe before it moved. And the truth is, we gotta wait until all the picks lock. Like 7 p.m. Eastern time is where all of the Survivor and Million entries lock because
Yep.
you know, you got to have some kind of a cutoff time. And, I feel like this gives us a good amount of time to like digest and take a look at everything people have been talking about.
Absolutely. The wildest thing that I find, whether it's the Circa Sports Millions or whether it's the Circa Survivor, the crazy part for me is just that there's always like 22 to 30 non-entries. Like somebody spends the money, man, and then just doesn't even make a pick or doesn't even make their selections. I wish I had it that good, where I could just waste like, $1,000 and then be like, you know what? Forgot to make my selections this week. That's the craziest part to me, man.
It's almost like they're forgetting to set their fantasy lineups.
Right.
Like, okay, like,
right.
That's a little bit different because you could just leave somebody in there and hopefully they get you something. It's like last week there was 45 no picks. And when we say 45 no picks, that means 45 people entered Circa Survivor for $1,000 a pop plus the proxy vig, and they didn't make a selection. In week 1, they're out. And then this week, we're going to get to it, but this week there was 22. So we're almost at 70 people in the first 2 weeks that just donated $1,000 and didn't even take a swing. It's remarkable.
It's crazy. It's crazy. Like I said, I wish I had it like that, man, where you could just like, let's be honest, just piss away $1,000, 1K like that. But it's like not setting your fantasy lineup, but and I've been guilty of that. That's why I don't play fantasy baseball anymore, man. When you had to set your lineups every single day, 162 games, and I'm like in college, just getting out of college, and I still had a life and was going out at night, I wouldn't even be up the next day. You forget about that early, like first pitch, whatever we did with that Sunday game, that early morning Apple game. But anyway, that's not why the people are here. That's not why the people are here.
All right, Ryan, before we get into the circus stuff, do you have any favorite looks for week 2? Like, what are you expecting? Is there something different that you think might happen this week that didn't last week?
Yeah, and this is why I love week 2 because we get so much overreaction. I love it in college football, but I love it even more in the NFL. So, if you watch week 1, obviously, there are certain teams where, like New England, New England, I bet their win total under 5.5, and then I came back around and bet it at 4.5. And I'm a little bit higher on Seattle than most. I bet their win total over 7.5. I like their secondary a lot with Devin Witherspoon, Reek Woolen. And I think Gino's going to have a bounce back year. Now, this Kenneth Walker injury sucks. But still, I love the skill position players with DK Metcalf. I think it could be a breakout year for JSN. And Tyler Lockett, I mean, I know he's getting older, man, but he's still a solid wide receiver. So I always look for overreactions in the market. Now that spread seems about right. So I guess that's not a great example, but like here's one where Green Bay was a 4.5-point favorite on the look ahead line. Obviously, Jordan Love goes down. Looks like they're going to have to start Malik Willis, or we may see some Sean Clifford. Still, I just thought that was a huge overreaction. I know that Jordan Love, especially the last 10 games of the season, played like an MVP, but I don't know that he's worth 8 points to the market. I mean, Pat Mahomes, sure. So I did grab some Green Bay at 3.5. We're sitting there down to 2.5 right now, just because I don't think Malik Willis is very good. I don't think Sean Clifford's very good, but you don't really know what you're going to get. There's not a whole lot of tape out there, and it's Green Bay's home opener at Lambeau Field. So I just look I look for overreactions in the market, and then I look for market indicators and just matchups that I really like. I'm looking at injuries. Like I like Arizona today against the Rams quite a bit. There's a couple player prop looks that I really like. I love Mike Gesicki receiving yards without T. Higgins being able to go for Cincinnati. I think they're going to stick him in the slot a little bit more. Played that at 18.5. Still like it right now at 23.5. So quite a bit I like. A couple bets that I really like. And I'm always looking for just overreactions. And I just want to learn more, man. I want a bigger sample size of who's good, who's not good. So that's usually what I'm doing here week 2.
You're disgusting. You're taking Mike Gesicki player props, bro.
Yeah.
I'm gonna send you to Gamblers Anonymous. You're putting out Mike Gesicki receiving props. One thing I'm looking at, first of all, we need to see much, much better play. It was very sloppy last week. A lot of the key players didn't play in the preseason. So, week 1 was effectively their preseason game. Quarterback play, for the most part, was not good. I think there was just a lot of sloppiness overall. Hopefully we're going to see a lot better in week 2. I am interested here. Some of the West Coast teams traveling to the East Coast. You mentioned Seattle. Seattle and New England is probably I'm not a pilot, but I think it's got to be one of, if not the longest flight you can make in the U.S. is Seattle, maybe Seattle to Miami, but like Seattle to New England is a very long flight. The rest advantage obviously is neutral, but when you're looking at the travel, you get New England at home 3.5. I personally think Seattle was just shaken off last week. I think they're going to go in there and really put it on New England. You got Charbs in charge, Charles in charge, but Charbs.
Oh, yeah.
Now Charbonnet without Kenny Walker. They still have all the weapons. I think New England only won because Cincinnati was making a ton of mistakes, especially near the red zone and in the end zone. So 3.5, I think people are a little smitten by what happened with New England last week. I love taking 3.5-point teams because people just they're obsessed with, I got the hook. We're getting the hook. Usually, from what I find, is 3.5-point spreads, the favorites cover those. The only one that I don't think did out of 5 last week was Miami, and Miami kind of pissed it away on their own accord as well.
Yeah.
And then obviously you got the Chargers going to Carolina. That's a game we're going to get into a little bit more in detail, but something about this game, it just doesn't feel right, Ryan. It feels like everybody is thinking the Chargers are going to walk right into Carolina, but let's not forget, everybody thought the Panthers and the Patriots were going to be the 2 worst teams. And you see the Patriots go in week 1 into Cincinnati and win outright. You have a Chargers team that really isn't that good, that honestly the game was a lot closer against Vegas than it looked on the scoreboard, traveling to the East Coast to a much earlier time zone. Even how bad Carolina is, guys, I still think they get 1 or 2 wins this season. Outside of that Giants game in November overseas, this is probably their best chance to get a win this year.
No, I'm with you. This is the game when I was talking about overreaction. So I was on Carolina week 1, right? And if you're just if you're not betting numbers, you're just betting teams, then you're probably like, oh, Ryan, you idiot. The Carolina Panthers suck. Bryce Young looks like he's in 8th grade. He's 5'0", and that offense is brutal. The defense looked like it took a huge step back as well. But I mean, there were people like sharp money was coming in on Carolina before the season on their win total over. I wasn't there with this coaching staff. I needed a bigger sample size of Bryce Young just proven that they can move the ball past the 50-yard line. Like I joked, like if you only watched the Red Zone channel, you probably didn't see much of the Carolina Panthers last season because I think they crossed the 50-yard line like 3 or 4 times only. But I'm with you. That's one of my favorite games. And we'll get to it in more depth, I know, a little bit here. But there's also a trend. I'm not the biggest trend guy, but that supports Carolina in this game. They get just, their asses kicked week 1. And now the overreaction is they're the worst team in the league. And they might be. But, yeah, man, I mean, I'm going to have to bet them at home. Like you said, perfect travel spot for them. Also, a terrible travel spot for the Raiders, and I'm just not there with Antonio Pierce. His decision-making week 1 was so bad, man. Punting midfield, kicking field goals down 9 points in the fourth quarter, punting in the fourth quarter down a touchdown on 4th and 1. And now the Raiders have to travel cross-country, like you said, to Baltimore to take on the Ravens, a pissed-off Ravens team with extra rest because they played the Thursday night game, extra time to prep, and they're mad because they lost on a final play where they thought that they got in with Isaiah Likely to at least tie that game against the Kansas City Chiefs. So now you got the Raiders. And John Harbaugh and Jim Harbaugh, I'm sure, have probably talked about common opponent as well, too. Yeah. So, yeah, man, I feel like there's some good spots, and that's always what I'm looking for. That's a really good rest advantage, travel. That's really important in the NFL, and get the best number.
And let's get to the Circa Million entries. Here we go. We're going to move this over here. Bring it up. All right. Thursday night, we had the Buffalo Bills going to Miami. And a lot of people are wondering, how did they get 3 points? I honestly liked Miami in this spot. I didn't think Buffalo was going to come ready to play. And obviously it was the exact opposite. So it was a complete miss by me. And then Tua just forgets how to slide or doesn't know how to slide. So there was 328 people that took Buffalo and 186 people that laid the 3 with Miami. Good on you if you took Buffalo. You got a nice 1-0 start to the week. Now here we go with one of the most popular selections of the week, and that's Baltimore -8 hosting the Raiders. Just over 1,460 people took Baltimore with 334 grabbing the 8 with the Raiders. That line is now 8.5. And everybody, I want you to remember what you're seeing here is a contest line that locks every Thursday afternoon. Any movement thereafter has absolutely no impact on this. This is a contest pick'em line. This is not down to kickoff lines. So it's very important. Chargers -6, getting just over 1,000 entries, where the Panthers are getting just under 1,100. So a lot of people like Carolina +6. New Orleans +6.5, getting only 542, where a lot of people are laying it with Dallas, 1448. Ryan, so far, have you seen anything that jumps out at you?
Yeah. I mean, the Ravens make complete sense because of what we just talked about. Cross-country trip. I don't think the Raiders are going to be very good. I don't think Antonio Pierce is going to be there more than 2 or 3 years. I mean, I'm cheering for the guy, right? I'm not cheering for anybody to get fired. I don't think he's very good. I don't like their quarterback situation. Devontae Adams most likely gets moved this season, I would hope. We all watched that wide receiver show. We saw how upset he is. And then, the defense, like last year, they played hard, right? And they played with grit and toughness. And that's why Antonio Pierce kept this job after being the interim head coach. But, dude, for 4 quarters, they got punked by the Chargers. Game 1 for Harbaugh in the trenches. They ran the ball right down their throats. So that one makes sense. I just don't want to lay a big favorite in the NFL, right? Like, as bad as the Raiders are, they could lose that game by a touchdown. They could be down 2 scores the entire game and then backdoor that thing. So I don't want to lay the 8. And I actually like Dallas in this spot. I'm not there with the Saints, man. Another overreaction. Coming into the year, I like their win total under. I know they play a pretty easy schedule, but I'm not a fan of Dennis Allen as head coach. Derek Carr, we do this with Derek Carr every other year, right? Ball's out. There's one performance. All summer, he's been talking about how the offense is clicking. Defensive side of the ball getting older for the Saints. Last couple of years, they've let me down. They've been the favorites, one of the favorites to win that division, them in Atlanta, and they always screw me. So, Johnny, if anything, man, I would actually probably lay it with the Cowboys. And I'm kind of down on them this season, right? I mean, you lose your defensive coordinator. You lose Bland for the season, most likely. But Trayvon Diggs last week looked like Diggs again. And that's a lethal pass rush. I don't really love their run defense, but I don't know if the Saints will be able to take advantage. And that pass defense or that pass rush should tee off on Derek Carr. And Derek Carr, when he's under pressure, folds. So I actually like Dallas now that CeeDee Lamb's happy, the highest non-paid quarterback in the league. Dak's happy. And Micah Parsons, he's not happy yet, which actually that makes me feel better. He's going to want to rip Derek Carr's head off the same way that I did when the Saints couldn't go over 8.5 wins for me 2 years ago. So I actually like Dallas. Now, I didn't use them, but I do like Dallas this week.
Yeah, I think Dallas is a team that should have a really good chance of putting it on New Orleans today, who's, they have some injuries to their secondary. Tyrann Mathieu was missing practice this week. Marshawn Lattimore, haven't confirmed if he's in fully yet, but even if he is in, then, he's probably not going to be at full strength, which gives CeeDee Lamb an opportunity to absolutely blow up this week. Last week, game flow kind of took him out. He only had like a pedestrian 60 yards, but I think, this week he can really eat. Dallas fans are going to be, absolutely brutal when they start 2-0, but wait till they get to the playoffs.
Exactly.
All right. Exactly. This is a big one. This is a big one. The Detroit Lions -7. They're getting 984, and you have absolutely something near what they're getting with Tampa Bay at 891. It's relatively close, but this line is now 7.5. And honestly, I was on the fence about this game. I was like, listen, 7 points seems like a lot. Tampa Bay played them close last year. They're an offense that can score. Their defense might not be as good as it was in years past, but they only lost by 8 points in the divisional game, and that was close throughout. The ultimate deciding factor for me was I looked at this and I said, despite my urge to want to take a lot of points with Tampa, a key 7-point figure, I got to go with the team that has just been covering at home at a 70-ish% clip under Dan Campbell. They are an ATS wagon in Detroit. That was the big difference. And then when you see the live line is 7.5 and you're getting 7, closing line value doesn't mean a damn thing. It just doesn't. It makes you feel better. It's like, well, I'm getting the 7 instead of the 7.5. But I think Detroit and Tampa is going to be a close game through 3 quarters, but the Lions, kind of like the Rams last week, they're going to pull away late. The ground game is going to get going with Montgomery and Gibbs. Amon-Ra is due for a monster bounce back performance after basically not being involved in the game plan whatsoever. I like the Lions here at -7, and I'm happy it's not one of the more popular picks because typically the popular picks don't end up doing that well on a week-to-week basis.
Dude, you're so right. And, obviously like CLV, we all strive for it, right? And it's great. And it used to matter, I feel, a lot more, right? Especially in college football. Last week, great example of it on Monday night. I bet the Jets this summer. I had a 6.5 in my pocket. And then I bet another crappy number thinking that they were going to be live in that game. They lose by 2 scores. They don't even cover the teaser legs if you use them in a teaser. So sometimes it just doesn't really matter. I'm with you on this one though, man. It's tempting to grab 7.5 if you can with Tampa because they could score. Baker Mayfield, this is the best shape he's ever been in his life. Mike Evans is a first ballot Hall of Famer. Chris Godwin, I think this is a really good matchup because Detroit plays a pass funnel defense. I think they're going to target him a lot in the slot. Lions, I'm not sold yet on the secondary. They're pretty young there, but like you said, man, they have been ATS darlings, covering at a 70% clip, 10-5 against the spread over their last 15. Since Dan Campbell's taken over as head coach, they're the most profitable team against the spread. He's covering at a 73% clip. Tampa secondary could be down 3 starters in this game. This defense is all banged up already. And now you go on the road where Jared Goff's at his best in a dome or in warm weather. And I just love what they're going to be able to do in this matchup, right? Like Todd Bowles is going to have to blitz. I don't think they're going to be able to get natural pressure because Detroit has the best offensive line in football. Goff torched the blitz in the 2 matchups against Todd Bowles last season. He's really good against the blitz. Jamison Williams, he's going to play in this game. Ben Johnson's been talking about it all offseason. His route tree's grown. He was 3rd in first target read share, meaning he was wide receiver number 1, targeted 43% of the time. And the reason being, he's winning on every single route. He was 3rd last week in route separation. So you already have, like you said, St. Brown. But now if Jamison Williams is really this version of Jamison Williams, he's a number 1 wide receiver too. I don't think they have a weak link, dude. Right? David Montgomery is your power back. Jahmyr Gibbs is your do everything back, and he could be an every down back. He will be eventually. You have maybe one of the better tight ends in Sam Laporta. So I'm with you. I really like this matchup. Also, like I said, I think this is going to be a really good. If you play player props, man, I think it's going to be a big game for Jared Goff. But I like Detroit in this spot. I'll be chalky and take the favorite at home.
This is going to be a fun one. Let's get to your game. Colts, one of the most popular picks of the week. -2.5, 15.59 on Indy, where at +2.5, only 503. Listen, I don't know what it is about this game, and this is why I stayed away from it. I stayed away from this game altogether in terms of Millions and Survivor. Something about this, it feels like they're begging you to take Indianapolis here. Malik Willis, he's can't throw for more than 5 yards. Indianapolis has just such a high ceiling. They're a high variance team. When they hit their higher variance, they are deadly. Green Bay, coming off an extra week of rest, they lose Jordan Love. Like, a lot is just against them right now with the quarterback situation. Something tells me this Indianapolis game is going to have something weird go on. Because you know how it is, bro. You're a Green Bay fan. Green Bay still has a good defense. They still have Josh Jacobs, who looked phenomenal in the second half of the game last week against Philadelphia. They have receiving weapons. They need to start getting Jaden Reed in 2-man sets, by the way. It's inexcusable for him to be wide receiver 3. I didn't play this game, but are you still on the Packers at 2.5 here?
Yeah, so even at 2.5, I like Green Bay. I would prefer the 3.5. Obviously, the 3 here, I want the full field goal. But this is, like you said, I think that there's a reason that 2.5 is sitting right there. And I love Shane Steichen. I like Anthony Richardson. I don't know, I don't think this is the best version of the Colts that we're going to see. Like, Anthony Richardson could hit the explosive pass. He could throw the deep ball, but his accuracy is still an issue. I don't know that Shane Steichen fully trusts him. I do think this is going to be a big game for Jonathan Taylor. The Packers defense hit or miss every single week, and it's a small sample size. It's only one game, and the game was played in South America and Brazil for whatever reason, and everybody was slipping all over the field, and they did have to go against the Philadelphia Eagles offense. But, all I heard about all offseason with Jeff Hafley taking over as defensive coordinator, they were going to play more press man coverage. Jair Alexander was going to travel with the opposing team's best wide receiver. They were going to be better against the run. And then Jalen Hurts and Saquon just absolutely cooked him on the ground. So that scares me a little bit because it's Anthony Richardson and it's Jonathan Taylor going back home to Wisconsin. He went to, he was a Badger. But yeah, I feel the reason I really like Green Bay. So, Malik Willis looked terrible last week. He had 2 plays. All you got to do, kid, is throw the ball in the end zone, right? Like, you have to throw the Hail Mary. You have to get the ball in the end zone. There's no time on the clock. And he takes a sack. Yeah. So, not great. I don't know how much Malik Willis we see. I think we might see Malik Willis in some running packages, and we might see some Sean Clifford. And I'm not a Sean Clifford guy. But this is the best part about it. If I don't know, and the media doesn't know, and the beat reporters don't know really what we're going to see from Matt LaFleur and Green Bay's offense, the Colts have no clue either, right? And they do have to travel. This is the home opener for Green Bay. Lambeau Field, still a tough place to play. I'm with you. I think something weird's going to happen in this game. Maybe it's a takeaway. Maybe it's a special teams block punt. Maybe a couple turnovers in this game. But I like Green Bay. Matt LaFleur, really good with some extra time to prepare. He's going to have to be creative today, though, obviously. Yeah. Like, you're going into a game with Malik Willis and Sean Clifford as your 2 starting quarterbacks in the Lord's year 2024. You better be in your bag today, LaFleur. But, yeah, I like Green Bay, man.
Better be in your bag, LaFleur. Oh, man. All right, we got another popular pick. One of the 5 most is the Jaguars -3 at 1,462 entries. Browns +3 is 482. I think the Jaguars should win this. 3 is what it is. 49ers, Vikings. 49ers -5 at 1106. Vikings +5 at 921. This line has since moved to 4.5. I get major PTSD thinking about last year, what happened when 49ers traveled on a Monday night. But it was a different Minnesota team. They had Kirk Cousins. San Francisco was missing a couple of their skill players. Jordan Addison's out for this game for the Vikings, so it's literally just Jettas and Aaron Jones. I think the 49ers are going to come ready to play in this one. I don't know if they cover, but, I mean, they pretty much have everybody that they had Monday against the Jets. I understand it's a short week, but they dismantled what's supposed to be the best defense in football. Their defense played really well against Aaron Rodgers, albeit his first game back. They stuffed Breece Hall. Garrett Wilson was able to get loose a little bit, so I think Jettas is going to find room today. But to be honest, I mean, I think the 49ers are going to, exact a little revenge from last year.
Yeah, it's funny, man. I was hoping actually to get to 7, and we went the opposite direction because I really wanted to play Minnesota for the spot. What you said last year, Brock Purdy even said, that's a tough place to play. It gets loud. That's one of the places in the National Football League. Like, home field advantage means less and less every single season, but that's loud. They do that stupid skull chant. Tough place to play. So I was looking for a better number with Minnesota, but we just never got there. And I don't know that I love the matchup. If Minnesota's fully healthy, if TJ Hawkinson's out there and Jordan Addison's fully healthy with Justin Jefferson, and you bring in Aaron Jones, and he looked great week 1, right? I feel better about this matchup. You have 2 really good tackles that could kind of neutralize what Bosa and Floyd can do, as they're 2 of the better pass rushers in the league, and Bosa looked awesome week 1. But that's just, I couldn't get there. I mean, Sam Darnold, as good as he was week 1, he was pressured on 42% of his dropbacks. It didn't really matter, because it was the Giants, right? He held on to the ball the 8th highest, though, last week. If you do that against Bosa and Floyd, you could be in trouble. And what I like about San Francisco, they get natural pressure, so they don't have to blitz, so they could drop extra guys back in coverage. So that's what scares me a little bit here, man, in this matchup. So, I do have a bet. It's 6 on a small one on Minnesota. Wanted to get to 7, but I don't think I would use them. I don't really like this matchup. I mean, I don't love the spot for San Francisco enough to use them, and I don't love the price enough or the matchup for Minnesota, as crazy as that sounds. So, side bet, small Vikings for me, but I don't think I could use them this week, man. There's just I can see Purdy serving up a couple picks. As good as he was last week, I don't know if Jordan Mason's going to run for $150 today. Jets on paper, that's the best defense in the league. My only issue with them, even when I went to the window and bet their win total over, the interior of that offensive line, and they got to get Hassan Reddick to show up, man. I don't understand why you make a deal for a guy that you can't even get to show up and play. So they got gashed on the ground. Let's see if San Francisco's able to do that today against Minnesota.
You think you're saying the millions you wouldn't lay it with the Niners?
Yeah, million. I didn't use them as one of my 5, and I wouldn't use them as survivor, definitely. I did use Baltimore today. The Ravens is my survivor pick.
All right.
I'm scared. Yeah.
All right. Well, we're gonna get to that.
Yeah.
Seattle -3.5 at 6:03. Patriots 9:28. Jets -4 with 8:30. Titans +4 9:32. Giants +1.5 7:32. Commanders -1.5 is 8:86. I mean, a couple toss-ups there. This is an interesting one. Rams +1 at 12:09. Cardinals -1 at 7:15. I took the Rams. I love the Rams today. I know you said you love the Cardinals.
Yeah.
I'm going to tell you why I like the Rams. Let's throw out the 13-2 record all time the Rams are against the Cardinals under Sean McVay.
Yep.
Let's throw out the fact that their defense isn't as good as it was in years past, and it probably overexceeded expectations last week. We're in a position here where all you need is the Sean McVay system with Big Daddy Stafford running point, Kyron Williams in the backfield, and Cooper Kupp. This team has been dismantling Arizona long before Puka Nacua showed up. I understand they lost a couple guys on the line. Havenstein will play, though. But even against a fierce Detroit front 7 with Aiden Hutchinson, they still managed to keep Matthew Stafford relatively clean. They had a tough time getting after Stafford. And Arizona's defense is not that good. They're okay, in a relative term. They have Budda Baker. They have a couple guys up front, but it's nothing really that scary. I feel like this Rams team is going to be able to score today. They've scored 30 points 3 times in their last 6 meetings, including the regular season, including the postseason, along with a 26-point effort. I feel like if the Rams are able to put up at least 26 points, they're going to win by a touchdown. I think Kyler Murray is going to make some mistakes. He's not on the same page at Marvin Harrison just yet. So I think the Rams win out right here. It's bizarre that they're an underdog against a team that they've had so much success with. And maybe that's a trap. Maybe that's like they're trying to bait you to take the Rams. But just based off the matchup, I think this is an LA spot for me.
Yeah, and I mean, LA looked good week 1, even in a loss, right? I mean, they came back in that game. Cooper Kupp looks awesome. Cooper Kupp is going to have a big year, I think. But that's the thing. I kind of like this matchup for Arizona. And I could be wrong, man. I mean, I've lost so much money back in Kyler Murray anyway. And he's my fantasy quarterback, unfortunately. Didn't like the comments, like, it's not my job to get Marvin Harrison the targets. Sir, it's literally your job. You're the quarterback of the team, and he was the top 10 pick. Like, if you're drafting a wide receiver, top 5, top 10, you better get him the rock. You better have double-digit targets every single week. That said, I went back and watched that game. Marvin Harrison also just wasn't getting open. He had the one, like, Kyler missed him for what could have been, obviously game time.
Killed me. That was Marvin
too.
Harrison. Anytime touchdown to cash for me, 3,500 $100
Yeah.
bucks. The only one that didn't hit, and that probably gives Arizona a good chance to win, knock the Bills out. That was sickening.
Yeah, it would have been huge for a lot of people. But, I mean, he misses them. But now they're home. I do think that they're going to have some success on the offensive side of the ball. I would only play the over in this game. I didn't, but I couldn't bet the under in this game. I think both teams are going to find some success. The only good thing I could say about the Cardinals defense, because it's putrid, is they're decent against slot receivers. So I do think that they'll be able to hold their own. Hopefully Jonathan Gannon has a trick up his sleeve here. I did go with Arizona in this spot after the Puka injury, after kind of what I saw from the defensive side of the ball. You have to replace Aaron Donald, we got to remember. So I like Arizona. If I lose one, it's going to be this one, I feel. I added this to the contest, too. This is one of my selections, and I bet this pretty big on the side, too. So if you're right and I'm wrong, I might be in witness protection tomorrow morning, Johnny. You might not see me next week, man.
Side note, Cooper Kupp has actually not had a ton of success since Stafford took over. I mean, he's had 2 100-yard games, but he's had 2 touchdowns. Like, he doesn't get – he's only got 10 catches once. So Arizona, surprisingly, is a team that does hold Cooper Kupp relatively in check. I don't think he's going to be quiet today because if he's getting 15 targets, you figure he's probably going to get at least 80, 90 yards. But that's just something to note for anybody looking to bet Cooper Kupp's props extremely to the over. Big matchup here in the game of the week. It's the Bengals and the Chiefs. Bengals plus 5.5 is 640. Chiefs minus 5.5 is one of the most selected plays of the week. In fact, it is the second most at 1604. This is no longer a Royal Mint spot. Royal Mint, something I didn't invent it. A guy I know who's been gambling and doing all this for like 50 years told it to me once upon a time. But I created this name of the Royal Mint. I brought it to this industry. It's anytime a road dog closes at exactly 5 or 5.5. This was just singing to me. But we got some late action on Kansas City this morning that pushed this line from 5.5 to 6.5. I still like the Bengals at 5.5. Even though it's technically no longer a Royal Mint spot. I think Cincinnati is pissed off after last week. They are a team that knows that they have to beat Kansas City this week to have a shot to win the AFC. Like an early season tilt is so important for the conference. Cincinnati and Kansas City, their last 4 matchups between Joe Burrow and Patrick Mahomes have ended in exactly 3 points. I think Cincinnati is going to find a way to at least keep this to a field goal game. I don't know about them winning, but I think this is going to be closing at a field goal game. Maybe KC kicks one to end it or vice versa, but I like Cincinnati here. They are one of my selections. I can never go against a Royal Mint spot of this magnitude, but even at 6.5, 5.5, 6.5, I like Cincinnati today.
Yeah, I'm with you. That move surprised me a little bit. I'm looking at it right now. Like, man, if you like Cincinnati, 6.5 minus 105 is a really damn good price. That's the best that you could find right now. So I would have liked this a lot more, obviously if, T. Higgins is playing in this game, right? And the Bengals don't have all these off-field distractions where now it looks like Jamar Chase isn't going to get a deal done in season. So he's going to go into the summer looking to be probably the highest paid non-quarterback. Didn't like what I saw week 1 from the Bengals. All the Patriots did was drop 8, say, hey, dink and dunk, try to beat us, Joe Burrow, and couldn't do it. Defensive side of the ball, I still have some concerns, and now you got to go against the Kansas City Chiefs. I kept saying, though, Johnny, like this Chiefs offense is only going to get better week 3, week 4. They're going to be scary, and now Hollywood Brown might not play this season. That's a huge loss. Didn't really look like they needed him week 1 because Xavier Worthy balled out. Rashee Rice is still a solid number 1 wide receiver. Kelsey, you know what Kelsey is, right? Kind of eases into the season. Then we'll get to the playoffs, and he'll look like the best tight end in NFL history, breaking Jerry Rice's records and whatnot. But I'm with you. I got to play the Bengals here. I know they're notorious slow starters. I like it better at 6.5. I did bet a crappy number at 5.5 and at 6. But I think this is a big week for the Bengals. It's not like, hey, you start 0-2 season over, but you got to get a win here, man. I mean, a lot of Super Bowl hype. You missed the playoffs last year. Hopefully, Lou Anarumo, their defensive coordinator, has a couple tricks up his sleeve because usually he makes those halftime adjustments at Arrowhead to beat Mahomes and the Chiefs. If anybody's going to beat Mahomes, it's Joe Burrow. He's done it 3 times. The only other guy to do it is Tom Brady. So I'm with you. I like the Bengals. I use them as well.
Steelers, Broncos, 2.5 here. Steelers, 936. Broncos, 834. Nothing there. Bears plus 6.5 with 300 people. Texans minus 6.5 at 1925. This is the most selected game of the week. I am on the Texans at 6.5. I think with Keenan Allen, Rome Odunze out, it's definitely a problem. This should be the Texans coming out party officially as a team they believe is going to be a Super Bowl contender. And then last but not least, it's the Falcons 6.5, 542. Eagles minus 6.5 at 1060. The line has since moved to 6. A.J. Brown's status is in question, which could hinder a little bit here. But ultimately, I think this is a spot where the Eagles at home off extra rest are good to go.
It's usually a bad spot for Kirk Cousins, right? Like the Eagles are going to be able to get a pass rush home. Kirk Cousins struggles. He's one of the worst quarterbacks in the league when he's under pressure. Great when you keep him clean. I did not like what I saw from Atlanta week 1. The play calling was predictable, and I think the reason it was predictable because I don't think Kirk Cousins is healthy whatsoever, man. That's why they drafted Michael Penix, and we might see Michael Penix, right? Because if they were in pistol, they ran the ball with Bijan 82% of the time. If they were in traditional shotgun, they dropped back every single time, and Cousins just passed. Like if we see that, obviously opposing defenses are going to see that. Vic Fangio is going to see that. And I think that Eagles defense, like they're not a finished product yet. With Vic Fangio and all those young pieces in the secondary, those young dudes up front, I picked the Eagles to win the NFC. I like them in Detroit a lot this year in the NFC. I know I really went out on a limb there, but I like that matchup for them too. Gross enough. I took the Broncos. I like the Broncos today. Oof. Right? Wow. Terrible travel situation. Bo Nix, everybody thinks he stinks. He may stink. I'm not there with the Steelers and Justin Fields, man. Nice week 1 win against Atlanta, the team that we just got done talking about, but I think the Broncos might win this game in Mile High today. If I'm wrong and they get blown out, you could come back and bring this back.
I mean, it's a coin flip game, so we'll see. I can't play that game. That's involving two entities that absolutely killed me last year at Christmas Eve. So
yeah.
All right, let's get to Circa Survivor. But before we do that, don't forget to subscribe to Johnny V's Dub Club using promo code First Month Free to get 1 free month when signing up for an annual subscription. Link in bio, link right here. Don't forget to sign up and get all my picks for this week and the future. All right, this is the time. Circa Survivor, where are you at? Leading off this week is the Baltimore Ravens. No surprise, just over 2,300 people, 26.5%. Okay, we get it. I'm on the Ravens. One of my entries is on the Ravens. I went with it because ultimately I think this is a good spot, and I'm just trying to move on. I looked. There was a couple spots with the Ravens later in the season, but, I didn't really want to fall into the other traps here. Texans, 2,049 is second, 23.6%. Houston, I think, is a good pick this week. I think they win. I do get worried about the Bears defense, but now with the offenses hindered maybe a bit with Keen Daddy and Rome Daddy, it's a little bit better, but I like Houston later in the season. I think there's better spots than this one to take Houston. Now, Ryan, the Chargers, I'm a bit surprised that they're only third and they're only at 1276. I was expecting more in the 1800 range. They're only 14.7%. They're kind of like the Bills to me last week, where I thought it was going to be a much higher selected group. I'm not surprised that it's one of the top teams picked, but 1276 on the Chargers. I was toying with this idea. I don't know about you, but like I said, I don't like this game. It's obvious. Everyone's like, oh, this could be a leg up. You're owning against Carolina. This is one of the few spots you're going to have to use the Chargers. You can save your better teams and just throw one away with a team like LAC. But I don't know if I see it like that. I think the Chargers are definitely on upset alert, whether people think that's true or not.
Yeah, man. I mean, I don't like to travel. And just, it's a one-game sample size with Jim Harbaugh as head coach, right? I still don't really love the wide receiver room. They should be able to run the ball, but I mean, if J.K. Dobbins doesn't go off for $150 again, I don't know how many points they're going to be able to put up in this game, and it could be a fluky situation where there's some special teams mistakes. I couldn't do it, man. I don't like that spot. Like, my case for the Ravens is I don't think the Raiders are very good, and I hate the travel situation, and it's extra time to prepare, extra rest for Baltimore. And like you said, looking ahead in the schedule, yeah, sure, there's a couple spots I could have used them, but I bet their win total under 10.5. I've never done that with the Ravens. Every year I bet their win total over. Last year I bet Lamar to win the MVP. They just lost so much, right? You lose your defensive coordinator and Mike McDonald, who I have a lot of respect for. You lose some pieces on the defense like Patrick Queen. They still have a really good secondary, so they should be fine. You lose 3 offensive linemen. I still don't love the wide receiver room, man. Like, you know what I mean? Like, Isaiah Likely led them in targets. Is that going to be the case the rest of the season? Love Lamar. Derrick Henry's another year older. Are they just going to run him into a brick wall all season long? So that's why I'm using the Ravens today. Love them against the Raiders with extra time to prep. And there's some spots, that I could have picked later on in the season, but I'll find other opportunities, hopefully, unless they get knocked off. Now, what scares me? Them being the number 1 team. We saw this with Cincinnati, and every year we see this. Seems too good to be true. But, yeah. The Texans, I also think, are a really good selection, though, man. I really do. Caleb Williams was... It can't get any worse, but I don't know how much better it gets week 2 when now he had 82 passing yards, 90 passing yards. And now, like you said, you got to beat up wide receiver room with Rome and Keenan Allen. And you got to hit the road. It's going to be a tough place to play. And it's a primetime game for the Texans. And that crowd is going to be juiced because they got 4th, 5th best Super Bowl odds this season. Like, they're legit contenders, man. So, yeah, I do like that pick on the Texans. Maybe should have went with it. I see. Damn it! Now you got me rethinking my selection. No. I like Ravens.
You know what? That's the thing. I think it over 2, 3, 4 times. I put it in Friday night, but I sleep on it till Saturday morning, and I'm like, I gotta have conviction in it. Could I went with the Texans? Yeah, but I like the Ravens in the spot, and the reason why I liked Baltimore, and I knew it was going to be popular, but I picked a lot of the number 1 popular teams last year. Look how far I got. I don't know if everybody knows, but I was top 10. I lost Christmas Eve for that Denver game. If I got past that Denver game, I was set. I was going to win. I had everything mapped out, and I looked at all the teams I had and who was going to pick, and I would have walked to the finish line. So listen, you're going to be on the side of the most popular team sometimes. It just happens like that. The thing is, just because it's the most popular team doesn't necessarily mean it's a problem. Like last week, I thought about the Bengals and I didn't take them because I didn't like the matchup. I don't have a problem taking the most selected team if you really like the matchup and you think this is a very good spot. And the reason I think Baltimore was good for me to take this week was because I wrote preseason that I didn't like the Ravens to win the division because their first 5 weeks are brutal. Kansas City, Dallas, Buffalo, Cincinnati. The only really good spot that they have is this one. Yeah. And who knows? The Ravens, after week 5 and they get done playing the Bengals, they could be 1-4. Now they're having to climb out of a hole. So I felt like, and if you're 1-4, bro, like who knows after that? That messes with your psyche. They're still in control here. So this is why I liked Baltimore. And listen, bro, it is what it is. I thought this through 3, 4, 5 times, like every different combination, every scenario. And I think Baltimore is rightfully should be the number 1 pick. And people could disagree and go contrarian and all that bullshit, but this is what I believed, and 2,300 other people believed it as well.
Yeah, man, I can make the case for all these other teams, even the teams that we talked about that we like, with the selections. I like Detroit today to cover a touchdown. I could also see a case where Tampa Bay wins that game, man. I mean, injuries happen, and also I'm not fully sold on Detroit's secondary. Baker looks damn good right now. They got some really good wide receivers. The Eagles, they should win that game, but who knows, man? Maybe Atlanta bounces back. The Jags, they're tough to trust right now. Cowboys, they're always tough to trust. I trusted them last year in the playoffs. Jordan Love making his first road start. Dallas undefeated at home. And Dak throws 2-3 picks in the first half. That game's over. Yeah. Colts, I think, are losing to the Green Bay Packers. The Jets, Johnny, I bet the Jets to win the division in the Super Bowl the last 2 years. Look what they did to me week 1. So, I mean, they're a hard team to trust. They've been the worst ATS team, I think, the last decade. Commanders, gross. Seahawks, that one almost seems too good to be true. I considered it, but a 3-point spread can't do it. Yeah, this week's, even though it's only week 2, kind of tough. I feel like the Ravens are a slam dunk. Famous last words.
Knockwood, don't say it. Don't fuck. No. Knockwood. Take it back.
You're right. You're right. Hey, in Lamar and Harbaugh, I trust. It's more in Gardner Minshew, Antonio Pierce, and the rest of those jabronis I do not trust. Those outcasts.
Oh no. If I will kill you if something happens. I will kill you.
Don't worry. I will go missing if I'm knocked out week 2. I'll go missing. I'll have to go away forever. No, I think I think it's the safe pick. I'll say
it's not safe. Nothing is safe. You're saying all the wrong things. I don't want to hear right now, Mr. Horvat.
Nothing safe.
Lions 859, 9.9%. Eagles 785, 9%. Jags 259, 3%. Cowboys 255, 2.9%. Indy 187, 2.2. I mean, I see a few teams realistically of that 5 can lose. I think the Colts can lose. I think the Jags can lose. I think the Cowboys can lose. If one of the Lions or the Eagles lost, I don't think it'll happen because I think they both cover, but I wouldn't be surprised. The Jets at 177, short week against a Tennessee team that, I think is going to be really agitated the way they blew a 17-point lead. That one's also up in the air. I mean, the Jets are a team that I need to see before I believe kind of thing.
Yeah.
Washington, 139, 1.6%. Again, this is a simple case of a lot of people trying to, use a bad team and get a cheap win and sneak into the next round with very little collateral damage. Seattle, that is a game that they should win. But I wasn't very convinced of how sloppy they were last week with Denver. They had 2 safeties. They started inside their 10-yard line 3 times. If they make mistakes and New England does what they did to Cincinnati and capitalizes, that's a really tough pill to swallow. All right, this is the game that I wanted to bring up because I know you gave your opinion on this for the millions. I took the 49ers in one of my entries.
Yeah.
And the reason is, and mind you, because I have 2 entries, I have to create different paths. I have a whole spreadsheet mapped out of who I might take where. And it's a rough outline. It's nothing set in stone. But for one entry, I'm looking to try and save Baltimore and Seattle for that Christmas week. The other entry, I'm looking to save Kansas City and Chicago. I want to have multiple options for both entries. So San Francisco, to me, they're going to have spots throughout the season. But I felt like, Houston and Philly, while they were good spots, I feel like they have really good looks later on in the year if I can get there. And I personally don't feel like in order to save those 2 teams, I was compromising by taking San Francisco. It's any given Sunday. Of course, anything can happen. But San Francisco is still a great team, and this is a spot that is very winnable. So, personally, I feel like I was still taking a good team and not compromising. And you know what this lines up with? The same thing I took the Lions last week. It's a good team in a winnable spot, and it lines up as contrarian.
Yeah.
When you can get both of those, that's great. I don't go contrarian just to go contrarian. I knew 49ers wouldn't be a huge selection, but you want to sometimes take a team that not everybody else is picking, but you want to feel like you're still getting a good chance to win a game.
Yeah. I mean, and that's the thing, man. Like, the Niners, everybody was picking against them last week. We got all the way down to 4. And, like a lot of people wanted to write him off because of the Super Bowl hangover thing, but Brock Purdy looked even better than he did last season. And if you could protect Brock Purdy, he could rip this defense up. I'm not fully sold on that secondary. So I get it. Like, and I get that you have everything pathed out because you kind of have to. You have to have your spreadsheets. If you could get multiple selections in, that's also huge, like you said. And I love that you already have it all the way plotted out until Christmas Day, because that's how you do win. That's at least how you make a deep run. You can't just, hey, I'll figure it out later. I mean, Some people may have success doing that. I never have had success doing that. So I'm with you. I was looking at Christmas as well, and I was looking at keeping Seattle. Like, but the issue. The only other issue is, man, is like injuries happen, right? Like, look at Green Bay, for example. I had perfect spots for Green Bay, but if Jordan Love's not going to be back fully healthy,
Miami with Tua,
Miami with Tua,
you need
right?
options. You need options. You can't box yourself into a corner. You know, that's why it's like, okay, you have 3 games for that Christmas week. You have Ravens, Steelers, Chiefs, Steelers, Ravens, Texans, Seattle, Chicago. So you need a couple options here. Some people are be like, I'm just gonna save the Chiefs for Christmas. But my issue was, which is why I didn't want to just rely on that, was Kansas City is a team that it could be locked up to the AFC West by that point. That's the second to last week of the season, and for all we know, they could be clinched for the number 1 seed in the AFC. So while they wouldn't punt the second to last game of the season, we could see them not play with the same kind of intensity that they normally would. So, it's always being prepared, and, chips fall where they may. But if you're prepared, you did all you could at the end of the day.
Yeah. Exactly. No, I mean, I completely agree. I mean, and that's the thing, man. That's what makes it so fun, but also so nerve-wracking, so tough, is you could plan everything out. You could have everything working. And then, because upsets, every year there's a couple huge upsets in the NFL. Some team that has no business is starting some third-string quarterback, PJ Walker from the XFL or something like that. You got San Francisco. You brought up that San Francisco-Minnesota primetime standalone game from last year. How many people went down last year that had San Francisco in that one? And then Brock Purdy.
Kirk Cousins was their quarterback, and they had Jordan Addison and I don't know if Jefferson missed that game. I'm not sure, but yeah. I mean, listen, I got it. It's NFL, and like you're taking your swing. You take your swing. Like it is what it is, and that's how you got to play. You can't pick scared. You got to pick with conviction, and chips fall where they may. That's how you do it. You play scared, you're not going to get anywhere, because eventually you're gonna run out of 7-point favorites to take every week.
Right. You gotta get creative every once in a while.
You gotta be. You gotta.
No shit, no joke. I legitimately thought about using the Bills, dude. I did that over and over and over, and I couldn't get to 2.5. I'm not there with the Dolphins, even with Tua. Last year, they were 1-6 against playoff teams. The point differential in those games, minus 18.7. 2 of those losses by more than 28 points. They were 10-1 against non-playoff teams. Josh Allen, 13-2 going into that game, or whatever he was, 11-2 against Miami. And I couldn't let it rip, man. I always play it safe. I want to be around come like week 7, week 8, because it gives me something to talk about, right? Like I'm telling you, I almost need it because I'm old and I'm boring nowadays. Like I don't do anything fun. I just need this. So it's like I'm in the gym, I'm in the sauna. I'm like talking about this with everybody in there. I need this probably way too much.
Dude, I'm telling you, take it from me. Like it starts getting crazy like that time of year. Like it's because then it starts really trimming down, and it really starts getting real because you need a few more wins to get to Thanksgiving, and then Thanksgiving is really like one of the final stretches. So it's a crazy run, bro. Take it from me.
Yeah,
I was just there. It's, it drove me nuts though. It really did. I couldn't think about anything else for months.
yeah.
Steelers, 87 entries at 1%. Again, I think this is people like the Commanders entries that they probably have like 5 or more. They're trying to get one by with a cheap gimme. I don't think it's a gimme, but nevertheless, Steelers in the altitude in Denver. Kansas City's interesting here. 32 people at 0.4%. And this is another thing that you need to realize. And obviously, depending on how many entries you have. First of all, you're burning a valuable team in the Chiefs that play on Thanksgiving and Christmas, which you need to be reserved for. But let's say you already have planned out teams to use that doesn't involve Kansas City. You still have good spots later in the year for KC, but you're going to take them in week 2 in a tough matchup against the one team in the AFC over the last few years that has consistently shown that they can run with you. I don't like that spot. It's not that Kansas City can't or won't win. I just think burning the Chiefs this early against a tough team, which is a very losable game, is not really the best strategy, in my opinion.
Yeah, man. I mean, I'm waiting for the right spot. Does that come in a divisional game against the Raiders maybe later on this season? I don't even know. I usually try to avoid divisional games too. So I could see the Chiefs losing. I'm not going to use the Chiefs against Joe Burrow, the dude that's beat Mahomes 3 times. Not going to knock anybody that does. If you feel really confident in Kansas City today, obviously somebody feels pretty confident in Kansas City today. Like you said, another line move, 6.5 for the Chiefs right now. So I get it, but I can't do it, man. I like the Bengals quite a bit today. So yeah.
All right. Giants 26. Again, it's like the same thing we're talking about over and over, trying to get a cheap gimme on basically a coin flip of a game in Washington. By the way, good news is, especially when you're this early, you want as many entries as you can on the same game but opposite sides. So we're already, no matter what happens, they guaranteed to lose a handful of entries because you have Commanders Giants, you have Patriots Seahawks, you have Cardinals Rams, you have a couple other ones as well that we can get into. Rams 16.2%. I don't hate this spot. The Rams do have some hard games this year. There's not a lot of spots that you would probably use LA, at least in the first half of the year. So this would be one. I understand taking it because it's not like the Rams are one of the top 10 teams in the NFL right now. They're probably more middle of the pack. So LA 16, I think this could be a good spot. And the good news is you look on the next place at 0.2%, you got the Cardinals at 14. So you're at least losing 14 entries today. Obviously coin flip game, like the Commanders Giants. This is a coin flip of a game. I personally think it's a Rams advantage, but even if the Rams win, you're losing 14 entries with the Cardinals.
Yeah, so this is going to be a big one. Like you said, I'm actually kind of surprised that anybody would use either of these teams. I mean, Arizona, I feel good about Arizona today, but how do you feel good about Arizona when, like you said, Sean McVay just owns them? He does nothing but beat the Arizona Cardinals. Now, it's a new coaching staff. No, we saw this twice last year. And that's the case I make against the Rams is road spot. It's a pick'em situation. I couldn't do it. I couldn't do it. I don't even really see the thinking. Now, I get what you're saying about the Rams, and you got the trend of McVay against them in the matchup, but I couldn't use them as survivor. No.
Yeah. That's a little ballsy.
Yeah.
Denver getting 7 again. That's a different side of the same game. So you're at least losing 7 with that one. That's 0.1%. Listen, a lot of times you wonder why are people picking these bad teams. The simple answer is there's people that get 10 entries or 8 entries, and they are looking to get a couple of them by using a bad team that they're not going to use for the rest of the season. A lot of people did it last week with Minnesota, and it paid off. But that's what happens. And they're because you have 8 entries, even this early in the season, they're willing to gamble X amount of their entries to get one by if they can just burn a team like Denver that they're not looking to use later in the season.
Yeah, like last year for multiple, I mean, week 1, everybody was giving me a hard time on the show. I had multiple entries, and I used the Detroit Lions against the Kansas City Chiefs. They won that game in Arrowhead, remember? But
Well, you could buy back in after that, though.
yeah, well, exactly. But that's you could get creative. It just comes down to every year I kind of have to ask myself, how many win totals am I going to play? Especially because I bet a lot of college football too. I do a lot of win totals. I make Heisman bets, MVP bets. So it's always like I have to set my funds aside and say, okay, how many entries can I actually afford so my wife doesn't leave me and I can still afford to like send my kid to school and shit.
Oh yeah. Oh my god. That's fun. We got 5 knocked out with Miami. Don't understand taking Miami in that spot at all.
No.
Nor the Bills. It's just before the game, there's just 2 good teams that you can have better spots later in the year. So I don't, and it's a Thursday night game, which is I don't like it.
Yeah.
New England 4 entries, less than 0.0%. So you're moving the decimal point a little bit more.
Yeah.
Cleveland 3 entries, Bills 2. So 2 people advance. 1 on Green Bay, very very interesting. And 22 no pick. So we're starting this week already down 27 entries, and we're guaranteed to lose more. Ryan, to be honest with you, bro, I don't understand some of these picks. I mean, I get it, but I don't understand it.
Yeah.
But I personally feel like with the Ravens Niners on my entries, I feel like I put myself in a good position.
Yes.
Personally. I mean, some people are going to be like, why are you using the Ravens this early? It's like, well, I have 2 entries right now, and it's all about just trying to get to the next week. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. And also, like we said, I mean, with the Ravens' upcoming schedule, man, now this might be a bad example because that's a really good organization. But some teams, man, look at Cincinnati last year. Like you get off to a slow start, injuries start piling up. That could be a completely different team by week 5, week 6, right? I mean, in the Ravens, you get the Raiders at home. Then it's on the road against Dallas. Tough place to play. They didn't lose a home game last year until the playoffs. Then, like you said, it's at home, but you get the Bills coming to town. Then you're on the road in Cincy. The only other spot I considered, October 13 at home against the Commanders, seems like a slam dunk. That secondary, that defense for the Commandos, that seems like a slam dunk for Baltimore if you want to use them, if you want to save up on the Ravens. But no, I want to use them. I want to advance. And then that's kind of the thinking there for me, at least. I'm not as high on Baltimore. I do get people that are like, oh, what the hell? Why are you gonna blow the Ravens already when you look at their upcoming schedule a little bit later on? But no, I feel good about this spot today. And that's what it's survive and advance, baby.
That's it.
Yeah.
We went through pretty much every game, extensively just between the 2 contests. Let's have a little fun here before we close out. Are you looking at anything anytime tutty related?
Oh yeah. So last week, I'm not the biggest like parlay guy, but I do love parlaying some of these like anytime touchdowns together.
Dude.
Last week I hit a 7-legger. The last leg I needed was Jerome Ford, and he gets in the end zone. Thank God in the 4th quarter, last minute for the Bengals. So I like Bijan a lot, man. I bet him to win Offensive Player of the Year. I think he gets in the end zone, even against Philadelphia. Like I said, it's going to take Philadelphia some time to get that defense where they want with Vic Fangio. It always does. So Saquon and Bijan in that game, even though they're chalky. And I like Derrick Henry today, but I had to throw it in a parlay because it's like minus 200. But that's a terrible run defense. I think Derrick Henry is going to get in the end zone. And then for Green Bay, Jaden Reed, I like. Now he's dealing with an injury. But he's going to give it a go today. I don't like any of the other receivers because we have no idea who the hell the starting quarterback is. And I don't want to play Josh Jacobs because if I'm Indianapolis, I just stack the box and say, beat us with the run. Make Malik beat you with your arm, with his arm, right? But I like Jaden Reed because he's their gadget guy. Like you saw it, he had 2 touchdowns week 1. One of them was on a jet sweep, on an end around. So I think he's going to get some handoffs. Last year, he was 3rd in receiving yards in the slot as just a rookie. So I do like him to get in the end zone. And I'm going to continue to play Jaden Daniels. every week, dude. Jaden Daniels is going to score a touchdown every week with his legs. The Commanders are going to be chasing points every week, but I do like him quite a bit as well.
Yeah, I do too. I like Anthony Richardson today. You're getting him in North plus 150. Jonathan Taylor, I think they're going to look to run the ball. They saw what Philly did last week. And the Colts can run the ball. I mean, I think their offensive line is more built for run blocking than pass blocking. Still got Big Q in the middle here, anchoring left guard. I think both Taylor and Richardson are live today. I think Jaden Daniels is live. Especially when you're getting plus money with these quarterbacks like Richardson and Daniels, as long as they stay healthy, out of 17 games, if they play, you got to think they're probably getting in the end zone 9, 10 of the times, So, even in a matchup like Anthony Richardson, perfect example, right? Green Bay only allowed one rushing QB touchdown last year, but they went against Fields and they got slaughtered in the ground game. Tommy DeVito ran all over them. But the thing is, you look at a team like Indy who has a great back and an electric quarterback. I think there's going to be room to operate there. I just think, given the fact that Richardson's going to be getting probably something close to 8 to 10 carries, you'd think one of them, gets himself in the end zone. I think Mike Evans today against his old running mate, Carlton Davis. I think Amon-Ra's live. Jerome Ford, ETN are live. Like there's so many. It's like hard to narrow down because they all have paths, like whether that's matchup or just pure volume.
I'll give you a gross one, right? Because I'm with you. And I like the running back anytime touchdown props. Like a guy like Joe Mixon, obviously, like he's going to get the goal line touches. David Montgomery, I think, is always worth a look because he's going to get the majority of the goal line touches. I do like Gibbs to get in the end zone today. Montgomery's going to get the ball if they get down to the goal line, but Gibbs is going to be used more out of the backfield catching passes. He's more of the explosive runner. I talked about Mike Gesicki. I bet his receiving yards 18.5. It's up to 22.5 right now. I also like him to score an anytime touchdown. Now, happened last week, but a stupid flag called it back, and I had it plus 425. Today, you're still getting plus 350 on Gesicki. So he's not a tight end. That's why he's not in Miami anymore. The guy can't block. He's a glorified slot receiver. He's big. He's tall. He's a nightmare matchup, and he can catch the football. With no T. Higgins, and kind of a beat-up wide receiver room, I like him a little bit for Cincinnati today. I like the receiving yards, more of a safe play, but I think it's a decent anytime touchdown look. And again, Burrow went right to him on the first drive last week. It just got called back, unfortunately. So I'm going to go back to that one today.
How about Xavier Worthy? Plus 165, plus 170. Cam Taylor-Britt, whatever the hell his name is, talked mad shit, said he's just a speed guy. That's all he can do. I mean, listen, bro, maybe that's true, but Worthy scored twice last week. They're giving him the Tyreek Hill role. Like, they're going to use him on jet sweeps and end arounds and quick screens and any way to get the ball in his hands. I think Worthy at this kind of a price is definitely worth a look to get into the end zone. Worthy is worthy of a look.
Worthy of a look. Yeah, I like that. I mean, again, and that's the thing. Anybody else, I'd be like, hey, maybe I'll stay away. It's a rookie. I'm not going to bet the narrative there. But it's Andy Reid, too. And they're talking shit about the X-Man, and it's Mahomes and Kelsey. I think they're going to try to get him in the end zone. So I do like that look, and I love the price. You're not laying chalk. If you're getting nearly 2-to-1 odds on it, I do like Xavier Worthy a little bit today, too. Also, if you're looking at Jacksonville running backs, you brought up ETN. I'd maybe look at Tank Bigsby, too. They shared the workload. ETN had that costly fumble, which really cost him the game against Miami. And Bigsby ran hard. There's like certain things that I never buy into in the summer. And I was hearing that they might like have a split share in the backfield. And then we saw why. Bigsby looked damn good, dude. So maybe look at him, too. Sometimes I'll do that. I'll go with like my safe pick, Travis Etienne, minus 115. But then I'll go with like a handcuff running back who's going to see some touches as well. Like I'll play an Aaron Jones, but also play an A.J. Dillon the last couple of years. Usually didn't work out because A.J. Dillon blows, but you get what I'm saying. Yeah.
CeeDee Lamb is another guy that I like here. I think CeeDee Lamb finds pay dirt today against New Orleans secondary that could be hampered with injuries.
Yeah.
As we wrap up here, this is my Circa 5, the Lions, the Texans, the Eagles, the Bengals, and the Rams. Survivor, I am going with the Ravens and 49ers. Ryan, what you got?
All right, so Survivor, I'm on the Ravens as well. Don't let us down, Baltimore. My selections, I went with Cincinnati. I went with Denver. I went with Arizona. I went with Green Bay. And then this is the one that's going to come back to haunt me. It was between Seattle and Jacksonville for me. And I went with Jacksonville, actually, over Seattle. Let me tell you why real quick, all right? So I'm probably on the wrong side. I get it. It's an overreaction. The Browns will be fine. I don't know that the Browns will be fine because I think Deshaun Watson is shit. And I also know that there's more stuff going on off the field with Deshaun Watson, more distractions. I think that that's a battle. I think like if Kevin Stefanski had it his way, he would go to Jameis. But I think management, the front office is like, hey, we paid this effort, all this money. We got to put him on the field, right? And so you have a shitty quarterback in Deshaun Watson. Nick Chubb's not back for at least 3 weeks. I like Jerome Ford, but he may have been a cut candidate if they had a healthy backfield, right? Amari Cooper, how happy could he be? They tried to trade him away for Brandon Ayuk the entire summer, man. David Njoku's out now. The Browns defense is good, and I know everybody wants to write off the Jags. I'm not even the biggest Trevor Lawrence fan. He'll probably fumble the ball 3 times, but I actually like the spot for Jacksonville after they pissed that game away week 1. So I ended up going with the Jags, man. I don't like it.
I think you have very sound reasoning. I was on Cleveland money line last week against Dallas. I'm like, Cleveland at home. Dallas has to travel with a hampered secondary. I don't love their offense. The running game isn't great. Who do they have really outside of CeeDee Lamb? Ferguson gets hurt. And, Deshaun Watson just hands it over. I mean, it was more about Cleveland losing that game than Dallas winning, in my opinion. It just short fields, turnovers. I don't love what I'm seeing from Cleveland. I mean, I'm glad I got that out of the way early. Got a taste of what we could see for the rest of the year as long as Watson's under quarterback. No idea, if this guy is. This guy shouldn't even be a starting quarterback in the NFL.
Yeah, I don't think that's an overreaction either, bro. I think Cincinnati will be fine. I really do. Now it does scare me. What a weird offseason. Higgins doesn't really want to be there because he has to play on the franchise tag at 25 years old. He wants his first big deal in the NFL. Jamar wants to get paid. Burrow's fucking hand doesn't look good. I mean, you know what I mean? So I am worried, but I think they'll be fine. I trust Baltimore, even though I just said I went under on their win total. They could win that division with 10 wins. I trust the Steelers more than I do right now, the Cleveland Browns. The only reason I give the Browns any hope is because of Kevin Stefanski. He's the coach of the year for a reason, right? Look what they dealt with last year. But, yeah, man, I'm out on the Browns this season. I think they might finish in last place in that division.
Ryan, it's been an absolute pleasure. I'm so glad you can make it today and grace us with all your takes and all your presence.
Thanks,
tell everybody where they can find you, bro.
Yeah, we got a new, it's my same show, but BetMGM tonight, 7 to 11 p.m. Eastern. New co-host, Brad Evans, hitting a lot of player props, fantasy advice. I bet a lot of sides and totals. So catch us there. BetQL Network, the Odyssey app, 7 to 11, Monday through Friday.
Ryan, I had a blast this morning.
Thanks so much for having me, man.
It's you coming on at 9 a.m., 8 local time for you, and you're coming up revving, bro. It's Sunday. You're ready. We're gonna have a big day. Everything is just. We're gonna have a big day today. It's how it is. We're gonna win them all. We're gonna win them all. It's just, the day is ours.
Yeah.
Don't forget to follow Ryan on Twitter at Ryan Horvat. Yeah.
Oh yeah. You got it.
Yeah.
You got it.
And you follow Johnny V at _JohnnyVTV. Everybody, we're wishing you a happy, healthy Sunday. Best of luck. Hope you win all your bets. And we'll see you next week. Back with Eric Pauly. All right, guys. Take it easy. Have a great Sunday.